And then go to Facebook. Going live. And I think we're live.
Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm switching back to Zoom. Oh, welcome everybody to our Facebook Live panel chat. We have a special guest today, and that is Michelle Dunk. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're joining us from?
Sure. So, as you mentioned, my name is Michelle. I'm a transformation and success coach, wealth mentor. I'm certified in polyvagal theory for trauma. I've been doing some form of coaching for 2 decades. Once owned a nonprofit where I started mentoring young tween and teen girls there. And then when all of the parents started telling me they wanted to learn what I was teaching, the emotional intelligence, the alignment, the um, nervous system regulation, things like that, I recognized that there was a need for the adults that never learned this. So I opened the doors to my coaching company. And prior to that, I stayed home with my girls, had a very successful corporate career, left that to stay home with my girls, who are now 21 and 19. Um, and used to just invite women into my home to have really great conversations like I know we'll have tonight. And that kind of led me down this path. Today, I'm actually in my sister's bedroom at our family shore house because people are spread out throughout in New Jersey, but we now reside in South Carolina where my girls go to school, go to college, and we come home for long breaks like the summer and winter breaks so that we can always visit with our family and friends. So that's kind of the long-winded answer to your question, but I am right now in New Jersey.
Well, I just want to thank you for joining because I can attest to your wisdom because I've been the beneficiary of your coaching for the last, I know it seems like a long time, but I'm pretty sure it's only been like a couple months. But I had to have you join us tonight because and I'm so glad and grateful that you could because I have been the recipient of so much of your wisdom and it has really just enriched my life. So thank you and
Oh,
welcome. So
it
we're
means so
also
much. Thank you.
you're welcome. You're welcome. So we're also joined by our regular panelists, Ashley Phoenix and Cerise Rusich. Cerise, can you tell us where you're coming from?
Well, I am also in New Jersey, but not by the shore like Michelle is, more in Bergen County. And I am also a recipient of Michelle's wisdom. I can't tell you how long I've been working with Michelle, but I look forward to our conversations every week.
Me too. I love them.
Ashley?
Hello, my name is Ashley Phoenix. I'm currently in the Sedona, Arizona area, and um, yeah, excited to have this conversation about divine alignment. I do a lot of work with divine feminine movement and body reading for women, just kind of looking at trauma and where it's held and how we can release it so we can step more into divine alignment in a lot of ways. So excited to have this conversation today.
Thank you so much for joining us. You know, this to me is such a big topic. It's a very beautiful topic, but I feel like it has a lot of potency to it. So I thought we could start off today with a little icebreaker question. So I'll start. The question is, what is something that you learned or discovered this week that either surprised or delighted you? And I learned that the Mozart sonatas, which are at a frequency of 448 hertz, have been proven to reduce the number of seizures that people with epilepsy have. And I did not know this, but I think it's incredible because I did not know that the sonatas were at 448 hertz, and but I did know that sound feels like the new frontier of medicine. So I was
Mhm.
excited and delighted to learn that. So, Michelle, how about you?
First of all, it's so interesting you brought that up because Teresa and I had this conversation just yesterday about the sound frequencies and healing and different things that it can do. So we're in alignment to in what surprises and delights us. When you asked the question, the first thing that came to my mind wasn't actually a delight, but a surprise. Um, Nevertheless, so I do a lot of work on nervous system regulation and what our past traumas are that we bring into the present moment and how we're never often, I shouldn't say never, how we're often not reacting to what we think we're reacting to, right? It's never about what we think it's about. It's typically about what we haven't processed or released in the past. And the reason I set it up that way is that, again, I'm in the Shore House, family Shore House, and both of my daughters share a room here where I'm often in there. Today they got and they're best friends, especially when they're at school. But when they're living in a small room together in the same roof and have different schedules and they're exhausted, they tend to go back right to this childhood differences. And I heard them having a spat where they pulled me into it. And I recognized that in that moment, everything I teach and know was happening in real time. And I was reacting to it in what I teach not to do. So sometimes our greatest lessons is being in it and recognizing that we never get there. There's always going to be another lesson. There's always going to be another opportunity to grow and heal. There's always going to be another way that you're going to see something that you haven't seen before. So it kind of surprised me that I was experiencing it right in front of my eyes with my girls, but it was really a great opportunity to show them what they were doing and to call myself out on it too. So it was a nice surprise, I guess.
That's
Didn't feel like it at the moment, but it was a nice surprise.
I love that. I just want to let everybody know that my internet connection is a little unstable. Um, so hopefully it'll hold out if we just focus on it being good. Cerise, can you tell us something about what surprised or delighted you this week?
It's a combination, yes, of delight and surprise. I had dinner with a dear friend last night in the city, and someone that I didn't really open up too much about a lot of my beliefs and, spirituality. And it came up at dinner last night, and I was delighted that I was able to open up and share, and surprised at the same time at the level of comfort I had in the conversation. Normally you know, I would keep a distance, keep a little bit of a wall up, protect myself. And I opened up and I was accepted. And it was I didn't feel judged. And it was just a beautiful, wonderful feeling.
Hey.
I love that so much. Goals. Ashley, how about you?
Thank you. I love everything that everyone has shared. And for me, I definitely align with what Michelle was saying. I went through a little bit of a trauma release last week. Well, I shouldn't say a little bit, it was a big one. And one of my self-resourcing tactics to shift my beingness to come more into alignment is to watch baby animal videos. And to look at baby animals doing different things is just a part of how I regulate my nervous system when I'm in a really tough spot. And I found this really interesting research project that someone did that actually proved that bumblebees like to play. And so there were these little bumblebees, and they gave them these little balls, these little light wooden balls, and they were playing with them. And these bumblebees had a choice. They could either go and play with these little lightweight wooden balls, or they could go get food and nourishment and the things that they need for their day. And oftentimes the bumblebees would choose to play over nourishment,
Mm.
or they'd play first and then they would go get nourishment, showing that even animals like bumblebees have a preference to play over some of the more like survival skills that we naturally have, and that there's always space for play. And I thought it was just so beautiful, and it was exactly what I needed to see in my own space of like self-care versus like the feelings of survival. So just wanted to share that.
Wow, I love that so much. So, so much. It's just such
I
you know, it's
know.
like such a cute
It's
little.
like literally the cutest thing. I can't.
I'm gonna need those links.
Okay.
So let's get started with our topic today. And I want to ask each of you a little bit about what this concept of divine alignment means to you and how it came into your awareness. So I'd love to start with you, Michelle, if we could.
Sure. So let me kind of give you, I'm a very, the way that I think is usually with visual. And so I give a lot of examples in that way, but alignment to me is exactly that. So when what we want, what we desire, what our God-given goals are, matches who we show up as, right? What we do, what we believe, the actions we take. When those things are a match, that's divine alignment, meaning you are in the vortex locking eyes with God or the greater power that you believe in. And so to me, alignment isn't just about ease and flow. It's about doing the hard stuff to get into the position. Me a second question to that definition.
A moment.
Okay.
Well, we kind of there you are.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's humid here and the internet doesn't appreciate that. So we're just gonna have, unless somebody has a suggestion, we're just gonna have to take a chance and hope it holds out.
Okay, you're back for us.
Okay, good.
Did you ask me a follow-up to that, Kay? I wasn't sure if that was the
How did
only.
it first come into your awareness?
Oh, how did it come into my awareness? So I think like most people, when you're out of alignment enough, you get aware of what alignment is. And I think it's kind of similar to what I said. So I have a sociology background, started in a counseling setting, still consult for a therapy practice. And the entire reason that I took that direction in my life, probably because that was a calling, but because I grew up with chronic anxiety. Until my early 30s, I suffered with daily panic attacks, lots of anxiety. And so I didn't know it at the time, but this is misalignment. Anytime we have emotional reaction or not able to move towards the things that you're here to move towards, not interacting with the things that are your calling. Like I think about that big example, like the play. There was no play, there was just surviving. And so when you are in a state of chronic survival, chronic anxiety, chronic depression, chronic anything on the spectrum that's below baseline, this is a huge sign that you're out of alignment because alignment is love, no matter what kind of, again, action you might have to take while you're there, that might be brave or courageous. It feels like love. It comes from the direction of truth. And so I was totally out of alignment, which in order to heal, I had to learn what that was. Now, I didn't know what alignment was, and I had not even heard the term alignment, but I intuitively knew that the only way to recover was to find a way forward. And sometimes that's what we do. We fail forward into alignment. So the good news is if you're out of alignment, that is kind of the cheat notes for life, is because anytime we're out of alignment, it's revealing to us that we are not in position to become a vibrational match to the things we want, to meet the people we want to meet, to do the things we're here to do. So it's really good guidance. I'm not saying it's fun, and I definitely don't want you to be there as long as I was, but the only way it ever came into my awareness is by not being in it.
Hmm. That's that's so interesting, and it's making me feel like there's this zone that we can move out of and into, and it's always there and it's always divinely connected. So previously, maybe we thought, there was this concept that life was just lifing and we were just trying to keep up with that, rather than the fact that we were like off kilter somehow. And this is a concept that it's fairly new to me. I mean, I think it's maybe just the particular way that I've been thinking about it, as this. I mean, there's such a big piece of surrender in it,
Mm.
that when I'm out of alignment, I've got my ideas about how things should go and how I want things to go, or how I think things are occurring. And then when I'm in it, I feel like it's so much easier to it's a conscious act to surrender to the wisdom that is greater than yours, that you're tapped into.
What
Ashley, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I want to finish just to piggyback off what you just said. What you just described beautifully is whether you're in ego or whether you're in truth. So when we're in ego and we're out of alignment, it's because we haven't done enough, or we need to do more, or we need to figure it out, or we need to prove ourselves or earn something. When we're in alignment, we are matched to the truth that we are already significant, loved, worthy, valued because of who we are, not because of what we do. So that shift back into alignment is an ego versus spirit kind of situation. So it is a surrender to back to truth, back to what we already know innately.
Beautiful. Thank you. Ashley, can you tell us a little bit about how you have come into this concept and what it means to you?
Yeah, thank you. It started, I feel like this was another conversation we had a few months ago, but for me, it started in a dance class, and it's surprising to me how much my answer is very similar to Michelle's. I feel like for me, I also did not know what alignment meant. I don't even think I knew what divine really meant. All I knew is that something was off. I kept trying to leave my body. And I thought, I'm tired of this feeling of constantly trying to leave my body. So, how can I become embodied? And through a dance class, through a movement class, that's when I really kind of started to find a spiritual awakening in a lot of ways, because I could tell the difference. I could tell when it was pain or really separation from source. That was happening in my body that was causing me to disassociate. And yet I was learning in this dance class some basic skills: breath, sound, movement, that was pulling me back into my body and helping me to understand and discern the difference for myself of what felt good and what didn't. And it was a stumbly, messy process. And to me, divine alignment is not, it's not always clean or perfect. Like there's this perception in the world that, oh, divine alignment, it must be like heaven on earth. And I actually think divine alignment is truth. It's a source of honesty where, like, the four levels of your being, heart, mind, body, soul, are really like moving in a direction, whether it's to release something from the past to become more present, or life's all the time. We're on a beautiful roller coaster in these human bodies, and the experiences that we have. And sometimes projection happens, sometimes these other things can happen. And the question I often ask myself is, how can I embody my higher source consciousness? How can I embody love? How can I embody truth in this moment? And, not run from the storm, not necessarily face it, but find a way to move with it, so that way I can continue on my path of recognizing when that divine alignment is present. And so, very, very similar, just different words and different example to what Michelle was sharing. I think it's also something that's natural. So divine alignment, I have never found when I strive to get there that I succeed. And I think that's part of the ego story of like, we have to strive to get there. But I actually think it's about letting it naturally unfold through presence. And for me, I've always found the techniques of breath, sound, movement to be the keys to connect to that divine alignment.
That's beautiful. And we're going to talk a little bit more about those techniques later on. But it's sounding to me like it's almost as if you can't really be out of alignment, because you're being drawn toward it at all times by our creator, God, whatever you want to call it. And I'm wondering, like, even though we're having this conversation and, it's really fun to talk about these topics, it's one of my favorite things, but I wonder if it's really impossible to offer people a way to get to their own truth. It's like something that we really probably each of us have to figure out on our own, so to speak. Cerise, do you have any thoughts about that and your experience of divine alignment, what it means to you and how it feels to you?
Sure. Well, spending most of my life in the greater New York City area, I think there's so much noise, congestion, fast-paced lifestyle that it took a really long time to feel that alignment by taking a breath, by stopping and listening. And that didn't happen for me until much later. So for me, the divine alignment was only accessible when I was able to quiet the noise, when I started getting into meditation, when I started, going internal, doing breath work as well. So a combination of those modalities really did help me to notice and feel that difference and understand more about divine alignment. But it's still, obviously a work in progress and still learning and feeling, because again, being in the New York area, and for most of us, not everyone has the same experiences, but when you're in that hustle and bustle, and it's really hard to quiet that noise, and even hear your own thoughts oftentimes. So by being able to, to quiet it, and then you're also able to, at least I was able to reflect back and see, with the help of others, some of the past and when things did flow easily, and when there were some blocks or obstacles in the way, and, what were those situations, and doing that reflection and seeing, that's where a lot of the learnings for me took place.
Love that. And I love the way that you describe that, because I think for people who don't understand the benefits of meditation, like, they're thinking what good could that possibly do just to be quiet and empty? And, you're describing some of the incredible gifts of quiet and silence. And it's so incredibly rich and full. And it's not something that you can kind of guide someone to. It's really something they have to experience for themselves. But can you talk a little bit about how divine alignment has either fueled your evolution or shifted your evolution? A little bit about that.
How it's fueled my evolution. Yeah, I think it's, during those reflections and looking at seeing what worked, when I was in alignment, when I wasn't in alignment, who was I around? who was in my life, what was I doing. By spending some time looking at those things really did help me say, I want to be around more of those people. So a lot of it could have to do with, matching the vibrations like Michelle talked about earlier, or it could be, there are some, people that, I don't like the term psychic vampires, but there's some people that really pull a lot of energy from you. There are some people that just, are a little bit more on the toxic side, not necessarily intentionally, but so you see who you're spending your time with, who's around you. So when things are in flow, looking and understanding what that is, and when you're not in flow. So I think a lot of it had to do, I was able to get there through some journaling, through reflection, working with other people to, who were able to point some things out that I might not have been able to see. I think that really helped me to, open my eyes and go deeper. And some of it's really ugly too. It's not easy, right? And looking at these things, you have to be ready, to face some of the darkness, some of the shadow work that needs to be done, some of the integration. There's a lot that goes into it also, but but I do think that the benefit far outweighs any of the hard work that goes into it as well, because you end up more self-aware, you end up, with deeper understanding of life and the universe. And I just think that for people that are open to exploring, it definitely is a benefit. So, but I think everyone's path is different and unique, and people have to find what works for them. And there are so many different modalities. We mentioned the meditation and breath work and journaling, but there's so many other, Ashley talked about, somatic movement. I mean, there's so many different modalities out there. It's just a matter of really seeing what's out there that works, that people are called to, that might work for them, to help them be able to see things differently.
Confirm them.
You're back.
Thank you. Michelle, I would like to, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I would like to ask you a little bit following on Cerise's comments. What exactly divine alignment requires of us? Sorry about that. Did you hear my question?
I did not, but you're
Okay,
back now.
thank you.
Following her comments.
What does divine alignment require of us?
Mm. So I love that. It doesn't require anything. This is going to be kind of difficult for people to wrap their mind around for a second, but follow me here. You said it so beautifully when you said it's starting to feel like it's our natural state. That's why it doesn't require anything, meaning it's a return to home. It's a return back to what you naturally, innately know. What distracts us or disconnects us is what Cerise was mentioning, the noise of the world, right? The traumas that we've all encountered, the fears that we've inherited or we've observed or we've experienced certain things that we didn't like, and we hold ourselves apart. Um, as Ashley was mentioning earlier, we separate ourselves from that truth, and that's where all the pain comes from. So think about what we're saying there. We're naturally in alignment. But most of us develop stories or we inherit belief systems that tell us in order for us to be in alignment, to receive with flow, with ease, to heal, whatever that looks like for us, whatever goal we're trying to achieve with that alignment, we have to do something, we have to become something, we have to earn something, we have to heal something. So we're on this mission to always seek something else. And so we're trying to create circumstances to achieve something that's natural. So what we're doing is you and I have had this conversation before, Kay, and Cerise, we may have even had this before, but it's the difference between what I call personal power and situational power. Situational power is when we get into alignment because we are journaling, because we are meditating, because we are doing somatic movement, because we are working with a coach or a therapist or Reiki or energetic healing, whatever it looks like, right? These are circumstances because they're tools that help us get into alignment, but they're not the power. The power is us when we recognize our natural state is to receive from the divine, that it's never withheld from us. In fact, lack does not exist in any way, including the receiving of alignment, the receiving of the blessings, the receiving of the abundance, whatever it is that you're looking for. So to me, the alignment is surrendering into, no matter what circumstances are going on, no matter what things that have happened in your past, for you to know that you're still worthy of receiving whatever it is that you're here to learn, to achieve, to experience. And it's you withholding that with stories that say, but I have to now make up for this, or I have to now prove this, or I have to show them, or I have to get a permission from them, or the apology, whatever that is. We could go into a million different circumstances. But to me, it just comes back to it is your natural truth. Nothing is required except for you to accept that you are deserving of it.
Beautiful. That makes me think of this little passage that I read in the Masters of the Far East books, and or it may have been the Course of Miracles. I can't remember which, but they described the journey that you only need to get so far, and then God is going to come down and scoop you up. And so
Mm.
sometimes my prayer is like, scoop me up, scoop me up, scoop me up. But what I think it's actually speaking to is that um, God, the source of all life, good, abundance, love, is like a magnet.
Mhm.
And the further away you are, or if you're over to the side, you feel less of the magnetism. When you're right in a direct line, you feel the magnetism and you're drawn toward it. And you get to a certain point and your velocity picks up because the magnet is stronger. And so I think that like that's how I'm feeling that my path, that's how I would describe my path. I got to a certain point where like I wasn't even familiar with the concept of divine alignment. And then suddenly, boom, I was. And now I'm like on an accelerated path for that. And I think that, a lot of times we hold ourselves outside of the magnetism with our own, as you said, stories and our own desires and our own and our thinking that we're on our own. And if we just shift slightly, let go and let ourselves be pulled toward the light, I mean, I don't know. That's just kind of how I am thinking
Yeah,
about it.
that's beautiful. And if you don't mind, I want to add to that. I often say we move the needle and God moves the mountains, right? We have to do our part. We have to participate, and then he does the heavy lifting. And what you just described about like that magnetism, I and maybe it's from my own experience, or maybe I just teach this way. I love that example. And then I reverse engineer that example, like for anyone that feels like they don't know what it feels like to be in alignment, or feels like they don't have that strong pull or connection, or they don't know how to surrender. I want them to know that they're still in a really great place, that the further away you are, the more intense it is going to be when you do come into it. And so I want to give somebody hope that's like, oh, I've never had that experience, or I'm so far from the magnet, I'm not going to be pulled in. I want you to recognize that anytime we are far away from something that we desire, it's revealing to us in real time where we are in relationship to what we want. It's guidance. You're still being supported. You're still being pulled in. You're still having direction. And if you pay attention to that direction, that's where we recognize where we're out of alignment with our faith. See, maybe it does require something. It requires faith to know that the alignment still exists even when you don't feel it, even when you're not experiencing it, even when you think you don't deserve it, even if you've been out of it your whole life and everyone in your family has been out of it, so you've given up hope. There is guidance and support there every second of every waking moment of your life, calling you back to that flow.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Ashley, can you talk a little bit about your evolutionary journey in terms of divine alignment? How has this awareness changed your path?
That's a great question. It's strange because I wouldn't say that when I became aware that divine alignment was the thing that I was experiencing, I'm not sure if giving it a label helped. I actually think, if anything, my ego was like, ooh, how can I make this logical and flip it into a pain point? So I feel like, we can, our consciousness can kind of be tricky like that. And so, but I will say that once I got through that hurdle, because I feel like the critical mind wants to come in and really make it very logical. And when I surrendered, which to me, surrender is equivalent to faith, it's equivalent to trusting source, trusting, that we're a part of something bigger. So once I got through the hurdle, then I found that I could actually relax into it. And that, again, just reemphasizing that for me, I've always noticed that divine alignment is a natural state of being. And I kind of want to take this opportunity to talk about when we're not in alignment, because I think there are a lot of people in the world right now that might be experiencing feeling out of alignment. And I just had this experience last week. We were supposed to do this call on divine alignment. And then I had this awareness of a pattern in my life, a story that I needed to clear, and I needed to work through some trauma release in my body. And I felt on the precipice of a dark hole, and not like a no thing, like, where everything and nothing exists, not like a koan, but literally, like, I felt like I was going to fall into a deep depression. And in that moment, I surrendered and I said, God, show me how easy this can be. How can I shift? How can I shift what's happening right now? And it has to be small, and it has to be doable, and it has to be digestible. Otherwise, I don't have the capacity to do it. And I was reminded of a TED Talk that I saw years ago by Amy Cuddy. She actually wrote a book called Presence. And she just encourages you to hold your hands in a yes position for 2 minutes, and it will change your physical form and biological field to start to get new energy, just moving your body, like shifting your body in a different direction. And that's what I had the capacity to do. Mm. And once I did that, I felt myself get closer to being more in alignment with the frequency that was comfortable for me. And that's when the next logical step I became aware of, which was go find a documentary on baby animals and just watch those little ones play and get a good laugh and get some oxytocin in your body. And then it was, what's the next logical step? And for me, it was reaching out to friends, because I finally had the words to speak through whatever it was that I needed to speak through, not from a projection space, but more of this is what's happening. And I needed in that moment a compassionate witness that wasn't necessarily going to try and fix me, but just was going to create the space for me to create whatever the next logical step was. And that's how I moved out of what was a very dark space for me last week. And I'm speaking this into the space because it's not the same for everyone. That's just what worked for me. But sometimes just asking for what is the next logical step? Is it going outside? Is it drinking water? Is it calling a friend? Like how can we get curious and let a little bit of willingness to shift our field to take us in a direction? And I do think it's actually quite powerful to be in spaces of what might be called misalignment or out of alignment, because for me, like messing it up, not getting it quite right, it's not quite the thing. Sometimes I learn more about myself in those spaces than I do when I am in alignment, because it's easy and it's flowing and it's natural and it's my natural state and it's wonderful. And the misalignment gives me the pearls. It gives me an awareness of how to move forward. So I know that was a big answer, but I really wanted to speak that into the space.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's so lovely. And I have something extremely mundane to add to that. It's not nearly so highfalutin, but um, I just wanted to give this example because it's so practical and it's so everyday. I've been planning a trip to go see my son who lives in Europe, and there was like a slight planning hiccup that was going to shift a few things. And I think that being out of alignment is like thinking through how everything was going to be affected and trying to manage around it. And I was able to step into alignment and just take my hands off the wheel and say it's probably for the best, and whatever happens happens. It can be that simple. And I think that the reward for well, reward's probably not the right word, but the empowerment of being able to step back in to shift yourself is the ease, really. The ease of trust, that your best outcome, your highest outcome is always being held for you. Cerise, I wanted to ask you a little bit about this alignment, misalignment scenario and how you move back into it. How do you come into the awareness that you're out of alignment in the moment, and how do you shift yourself back in? If you even feel like that's necessary, maybe it's not even necessary.
Well, while Ashley was talking before, I was remembering one of the things that I notice when I am in alignment, and that's I feel like the universe is talking to me. I have all these synchronicities that happen. I'll see angel numbers everywhere. I'll see, 1111s or all different numbers that have all different meanings to them, but I'll start seeing them. I do notice when I don't see them. And so the lack of the universe talking to me or speaking to me, definitely, I'm aware of that, and and then take some time to reflect on, what, do I have a misalignment in some area of my life right now? And usually the answer is yes. And, and then I do some, internal work to figure out what it is if it's not obvious to me. But when I'm in alignment, there's this feeling of, things going well, ease, a peace. And then when I'm in a misalignment, that's where it's almost like a shrinking. It's, there are all these different, feelings that I have, or experiences that I have that just come into my life that I recognize, things are in misalignment. There is a lack of ease. There are blockages. There are things that are happening that so many different examples are popping into my head at the exact same moment, but it's recognizable. So for me, when I do notice the misalignment, it's when I say, okay, I have to take a pause. I have to figure out what it is. And usually, I can see what needs to shift. I'm getting better at it. I'm getting faster at, seeing it, taking the time to reflect and working on it. And that's a huge shift from, even a couple of years ago when it would have taken I might not have even recognized the misalignment. I would not have recognized, these things. But so the more you work on it, the easier it is to start seeing it and to take some action.
Beautiful. Thank you. I think this is one of the things that Michelle has helped me with so much, is the idea of asking. Ask if you're feeling something's off or you're not comfortable with the way things are, ask to be shown the alignment, ask to be pulled toward the magnet. And I want you to speak a little bit about that, Michelle, because that's been a profound teaching for me because I'm accustomed to not asking for things, and I put that, I mean, that was in my life in general, but it also ended up being in my spiritual life as well. Can you speak to that?
So it's interesting because this original idea of asking for it came when I read A Course in Miracles years ago, when I read the definition of a miracle as any time we shift from fear to love. And I recognized that I didn't know how to shift. I didn't know what that meant. I got the definition, like, okay, get out of fear and get into love. But I lived in fear. Like that was my home away from home. That was my home base. That was what I knew. That's where people around me lived. So I didn't know how to ask for it. So what it means to me is to actually say that. This is also the definition of surrender in so many ways, where we shift our perception by asking for it. God, I don't know what's going on here. I'm lost. I'm scared. I'm angry. I'm whatever it is, but I still trust you. So let me see this through your eyes. Show me what I need to know. I loved what Ashley said earlier about, show me the best case scenario. These are so many prayers that I say where it is, show me what's happening up here, like in a higher elevation, a higher frequency where alignment is when I'm playing down here. So what exists that I'm not seeing? What is possible that I'm not playing with right now or it's not been revealed to me yet? Show me how to move in the direction of what you want me to. I'm willing to do my work. I'm willing to do my part. I'm willing to show up here, but show me what it is that you want me to know and what you want me to do about it. So one of my prayers is, if anyone needs this tonight, is if you have a mind like I do, where it tends to overthink. And it really is something that needs solid, solid evidence that I'm going in the right direction, that this is the right thing for me. I want you to lean into the idea that there truly is infinite ways that this can work out. But there may be one or two things that you should not explore. So my prayer has become, when I'm in that situation where I'm asking for the guidance, when I'm asking to be revealed of what's next, I literally say, to me, it's God. So I say, God, if this is not meant for me, shut the door so tight, bolt it, make it impossible for my stubborn self to knock it over. So I know it's not for me. And anything else you want me to explore, I know you have my back. Like, we can do this. I'm here for it. But I just ask for that guidance now where it's bolt anything that's not meant for me and we'll figure out the rest together. But it really is asking to shift my perception. It's not me mentally having this 5-step process where first I close my eyes and then I breathe like this and then I call upon this and then these are tools, right? It literally is just saying, hey, God, you know better than I do. I don't know what's going on here, but I trust you. So reveal to me what you want me to do next, and you will be shown. But if you're stubborn, ask to make sure that you don't go around down the wrong path, and any direction you take will be made right.
I love that. I often say, like, make it so obvious that even I
Yes.
get it.
Yes. Same. I'm like, give me all the flashing lights because I will keep on going.
Yeah, for sure. Ashley, I think you can probably relate to that because I think that when you are accustomed to figuring things out and being in charge and managing things, you can get into this do, be, create, mode where you're sort of overriding the divine alignment that's pulling you. You're like, I'm gonna swim upstream myself, you know? So can you talk a little bit about how um, you watch yourself for the override, I should say?
Oh, that's a really, really good question. I'm gonna need a little bit of time to think about that because um oh gosh, I honestly feel like it comes to observing patterns. So I don't necessarily take a journaling approach, although I do feel that for some people, journaling is a really powerful tool. Um, but I think about the last time I felt this way. So for example, one of my largest wounds is if I perceive that someone is in authority, then I immediately go into people pleasing. And that was not something that was easily observable to me for a long period of time. But now I've identified it because I've started when I'm out of the pickle, whatever misalignment I've sort of discovered, when I'm out of it and I'm feeling like that natural neutrality, I'll oftentimes reflect and just kind of take a little bit of a spiritual inventory, maybe. Like I don't want to go too far down. I try to be very light about it, but I just kind of look at what happened and is this similar to the last time I felt this way? And it's a pattern this pattern is a good pattern, but it's something that I've developed over time. And I've started to notice that there is a theme that is pretty consistent with every time I've been out of alignment, and it has to deal with this piece of in connection to authority. And so now I'm getting better, kind of similar to what Cerise was saying. It's like once you start to observe that there's a pattern, you kind of pick up on it a little faster, and the pain isn't as or the dis-ease, the discomfort isn't as significant because you're able to catch that rhythm a little sooner and start to shift it or start to question or start to think about it differently. So I hope that answers your question. It took me a minute to kind of think about it.
Yeah, yeah. Cerise, can you answer that question as well, which I can't re what was the question, Ashley? Um, I have another question here. Can you, Cerise, can you talk a little bit about your practices for shifting back into alignment? See how I just let that go and
I love it. Um, for me, I think that, I mean, definitely I've gotten way more into meditation than any other practice, and try really hard to meditate at least once a day, if not twice a day. But then I do have some weeks that, it's just 3 times a week or 4 times a week. So like I definitely try to spend as much, to meditate daily as much as possible. I've noticed for me personally, it is something that has definitely helped shift so much for me in my life and getting into that divine alignment. For me, a lot of it is about remembering, and the way that I remember is through meditation. And so, and I think it goes back to I think it's very similar to what Michelle was saying earlier. It's that the natural state is the divine alignment, right? So that remembering, is the divine alignment. And so for me, meditation helps me get there. I've also, similar to Ashley saying, I want to journal more. I try to journal, and I do find a lot of benefits in journaling as well. But I'm not as great at maintaining that modality as I am with meditation. But I think journaling can definitely help with the remembering as well. I'm trying to remember, it's the Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way, Julia Cameron, where they talk about like the daily pages that you know, every morning to wake up. And that's one method of helping to quiet the noise, you know, in your head to then get to the creativity, right? And that's the way that you get there. I don't know. I read the book like 20 years ago, but the same idea, right? It's to get to that natural state by getting some of the noise out. But for me, to answer your question in the most long-winded way, has been through meditation.
Thank you. Thank you. I remember what the question was, and I want to pose it to Michelle. It's basically when you're a very capable person and you're used to being in charge, and maybe your upbringing, you had to take care of yourself a little bit too much. You can get into this habit of overriding your either your intuition or your alignment. And so, how do you recognize when you are kind of powering through, and what's the practice for letting go of that?
Hmm. I'm laughing because you just spoke my life in existence. So I think a lot of us can relate to this, right? Well, so what it is when we're trying to override is we're trying to actually find safety in the world. We're trying to control circumstances and other people in our experience so that we can feel safe, we can feel significant, we can feel valid, we can feel worthy, all the buzzwords that you hear. But truly, what it just means is we're trying to find alignment and we don't know any other way. And the way that we know, and when Ashley was speaking, I thought to myself, I call it good girl syndrome. When she says when someone's in authority and she starts people pleasing, I think we learn, most women especially learn this from a very early age, that star student behavior. Like, okay, I recognize that my chances of survival, and this is an ancestral brain situation, is that we understand that we're here to survive. We need each other to survive. So very smartly, we look and see, how do I please that person in front of me? How do I receive love from them? How do I receive safety from them? How do I receive support from them, or whatever it is we need? And we pick up very early that if we perform certain ways, if we're, easy to love, if we help them out in this way, if we perform like this, if we overachieve like this, if we look like this, we download this in our brains, and therefore somatically in our body, it's blueprinted that this is who we need to perform as for all of our life to feel safe. And so we're overriding the truth that we don't have to do anything. And both of you girls have heard me say this a million times, but this is the exact example. It's not what we do, it's who we are when we do it. So you could be totally relaxing, and that's the thing that brings the desire you have. You're not performing, you're not doing something, but who you are is in alignment. Or you can be overachieving and overdoing and efforting and struggling and sacrificing everything to get the praise and approval of everyone around you, and still never get there, because who you are in that moment is, again, out of alignment, overriding, playing God. And so I think that's what a lot of us do as women, is that we have this survival technique, that is that we try to be the god of the universe for everybody, including ourselves. And it's not because we have huge egos, and I mean that in the egotistical way. It's because that's what our survival mechanism and our nervous systems have taught us to do, and we haven't learned any other way. So, to answer the second part about what do we do if we're constantly overriding, we're trying to control for safety, we're overdoing to try to be somebody, to try to perform our way there, is to learn what nervous system regulation is, to learn somatic things. And again, these are tools, just like meditation, just like journaling. You don't actually have to do anything to get there. But for a lot of us who've never learned to relax and experience alignment and experience trust and faith, tools will help you achieve that at first. And so simple breath work, movement. I love what Ashley said in the beginning about sound, vibration, movement, breath. These are things that can help us move in. And if you have not heard of nervous system regulation, I mean, you can just Google it and millions of, talks or ideas and tools will pop up for you, but it is a conversation worth exploring. It is something worth looking into. But what it does is get you out of that survival mind, moves you back into the truth. And I like to think about it like a thermometer in your house, right? And this is a whole other segment we could go into, and you girls have heard me talk about it before, but the different stages of your nervous system for survival, it's all necessary. But we want it like a thermometer. We want it programmed for ventral, where you're safe and you're grounded and you have faith and you are trusting that everything's working in your favor and there is a greater force in control here, and you don't need to be it for yourself or for anyone else. And so you have to learn the tools to get yourself back up there as often as possible. So my answer would be nervous system regulation, which truly is just another way of saying alignment. When you are in alignment, you're at peace, you're regulated. When you're in alignment, you're in faith, you trust. When you are in alignment, you surrendered, you let go. So all of these words are saying the same thing, that you are locking eyes with God and saying, I know you have me. Show me what the next move is.
Well, thank you so much. That was beautiful. I just love it. And it also is a perfect segue to let everybody know that Ashley will be leading our next panel chat in July, on July 9th, on embodiment. So I have a feeling that we're going to be talking a lot about these very specific techniques and how to step into alignment. So I just want to thank you all so much for joining us, and for your wisdom and for your care and for the way that you bless our lives and our planet at this time. Thank you so much.
You ladies, thank you so much for having us.
Bye,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye.